Hi guys, welcome to this new video. Today I want to talk a bit about the universe and our relationship to the universe. I think it's fair to say that human beings are born to a quite strange position. Somewhere around our childhood we are able to develop this perceived sense of consciousness. But what are we actually conscious of? What are we actually aware of? We become aware of our own existence. But not only do we become aware of our own existence, we also become aware of our surroundings, about the rest of the universe. However, we are able to do something special. We create a sense of being an individual, a self, one organism, one entity. And while we do this, we essentially detach ourselves from the rest of the universe. We say, this is me, and the rest of it is the universe. However, we are still made out of the same particles and atoms that the universe is made out of. So how is it possible that we ourselves can experience a sense of individuality and detach ourselves from the universe? Even though essentially we're all just small parts of it, somehow I'm still able to identify as myself. I wake up every morning as myself and see things from my perspective and feel like I have this individual self. And even though others are also part of the same universe, I don't feel like I am another person, I only feel like myself. Now, to get a better understanding of the universe and our relationship to it, we first have to understand a bit about the universe itself. And now this is not an easy task. Human beings have been puzzled by this for many years. We are a species filled with curiosity and we deeply desire to know the truth of our existence and the truth of the universe. Over the last few centuries, we actually came to know quite a bit about the universe. And although a few centuries might seem long to our human perspective, from a cosmic perspective, this is actually only a very tiny period of time. The start of the universe, or at least the start of time itself, is believed to be 13.8 billion years ago. Now, in the last few centuries, our technologies have improved vastly, which allowed us to know a lot more about the universe, and also establish this theory of the Big Bang. What does this theory actually suggest? It suggests that at one point in time, like I said, 13.8 billion years ago, all of the universe was once in a very tiny, hot, dense spot. And from there, it really started expanding. It was a big explosion, which caused energy, space, and matter to move. Now, during this hot and dense period of time, at the early universe, it was so hot because it was moving so rapidly, there's so much energy. When particles are moving very rapidly, it creates a lot of energy, which is what we call heat. So the further in time we go from the Big Bang, the further away everything moved, the bigger space became, the colder it actually became. Because the matter in the universe had more space to move, there was less energy. Because there was less energy between the atoms, atoms were actually able to attach to each other. And in chemistry, we call this molecules. Now, one of the early molecules in the universe are helium and hydrogen. Helium and hydrogen are the crucial elements to a star. Now, one important thing to understand is that once matter occupies a certain thing in space, it attracts other matter. So the more matter is in one point, the more it attracts to that one point, which we call gravity. Now, these stars, they became so big by attracting so much matter that supernovas occurred. And out of these supernovas, new elements were created, such as hydrogen and oxygen. Now, while the universe is still expanding and new elements are being added to the universe, things like galaxies and planets start to come in existence. For instance, our solar system is believed to be 4.6 billion years old. Now, a certain planet that we like to call Earth was orbiting this star, which we call the Sun. Now, for some reason, on this rock that we call Earth, about 3 billion years ago, the circumstances were just right for life to emerge. And life is even more complex than simple molecules forming. When we talk about life, we don't even talk about chemistry anymore. Here is where we really go into biology. At first, just simple organisms start developing on Earth. Now, these simple organisms have a certain DNA to them. It's essentially a code, an instruction of how to live. They make replicas of themselves. They give on this DNA, but it's slightly altered. And the ones that are successful at replicating themselves will move on to the next generation and also replicate themselves. Now, only the best survivors are able to reproduce themselves and move on to the next generation. Essentially, we get the slightly altered version of an organism. It's just moving on in a continuous cycle, which we call evolution. Now, these organisms all start to get more and more complex. We start seeing small animals. Now, we could talk about the process of evolution from these tiny organisms to us for a very long time. But this is perhaps a story for another video. The point of this video is more to explain that we now actually ended up as these human beings walking around Earth with these vastly complex brains that we actually barely understand ourselves, but are quite fascinating. Our brains have developed over time in such complex ways that we are able to perceive the reality around us. And we are able to actually determine what happened before us. We're able to create this whole story about how the universe came to be, how we came to be, and it might actually be quite accurate. One interesting thing about the human perspective is that we are always stuck in this present moment. And although for the universe time might not exist, for us it's a very important element. Essentially, we are one organism able to observe and collect the data that the universe is giving us. It's giving us certain inputs, and our brain is working like an algorithm, transferring that input into a perception, and it gives us a perceived sense of reality. For example, light that a star gives could have been sent billions of years ago, but I'm perceiving it right now. So for me, it's this present moment that is actually there and that it actually exists. This way, we are constantly collecting data from the universe in real time and transferring that into our perception. We are essentially this tiny organism living in a giant organism that is the universe. We are constantly interacting with this giant organism that is the universe, and we have this perception of being itself. We are essentially all small parts of the universe with very interesting and complex molecules combined to form this one perception. We are like this small conscious light on this tiny, fragile rock in the vastness of the universe. And although we are only a small part of it, we still want to understand all of it. We have limited resources. We are not able to accurately envision the entire universe itself, but we still try and we still do our best at understanding it. And through our collective efforts, we are able to make a lot of progress in understanding the universe. A lot of human beings get really caught up in this human lifespan. We only think about terms of 100 years, and why wouldn't we? But by doing so, we actually often forget that we are actually just this small part of the giant process that is the universe. And all the work you do in this lifetime, you can pass on to the next generation. All the information you acquire, all the knowledge you gather, you can pass on to the next generation, hoping they are slightly better, slightly closer to figuring out what reality is, what this world is. And while we have no idea what we're actually building up towards, I think it's just best for all of us if we try our best and really give everything you have in your human lifetime and pass that on to the next generation. This is also one of the reasons I started this channel. I want to contribute my part, and I think every human being has a unique and individual experience, and everyone can contribute something to this. We build up to this greater, higher being. And with that, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.